There are so many light novels out there that just seem so stupid that when you read them you think these can't possibly be any good. But believe me, there's a lot more greats out there than you might think. Join me. First up is the poster child for this video, and it's the one that kind of got me thinking about these silly titles, and that is Reborn as a vending machine, I Now Wander the Dungeon. Now this was one of the very first light novels that I read, and it was one that I looked at and I thought, this just can't possibly work. This couldn't possibly work as a light novel, and I was wrong. This one is incredibly fun. This is about a young man who is obsessed with vending machines. He knows everything about them, and of course, living in Japan, he is surrounded by vending machines. He is crushed by a vending machine and is reborn in another world as a vending machine. Now, a vending machine can't move, and he soon befriends a strong girl who basically carries him around. But he uses his power as a vending machine to kind of just unite the communities, and I don't know, he ends up being overpowered. It's a really funny one. He ends up with like a force field which kind of knocks creatures back and kind of like zaps them and stuff like that. And it's just all of these fun and unique ways a vending machine can do damage without really doing anything. It's a unique and a very fun title that I just genuinely don't think we've really had another one of. Next up is another one that I read very early on, and that is So I'm a Spider, So What? Now, this was one where I originally checked it out and I thought, oh, you know, these turned into something where we had, I think at the time we had, that time I was reincarnated as a slime, and I think Dragon Hatchling, I think, was out at that time. But this was one of the earlier light novels that started getting put out, and it was the first light novel I think I read that didn't actually have an anime adaptation prior. So I'm a Spider, So What is about a young girl who is killed and then is reborn as a spider. And you know what? We've seen this time and time again. Character gets reborn as a very weak, very bottom of the food chain monster, and then ends up being super powerful. But So I'm a Spider really excels in that. It's one of those ones where I just kind of was looking at it and I was just like, I'm not expecting much from this. There's not really much in terms of how this can process. She's going to end up being overpowered, and what we end up with is genuinely a story about a girl reborn as a spider just kind of struggling to survive and ends up being incredibly overpowered by the time she escapes what is essentially the final dungeon. And it goes from strength to strength. There's a lot of twists and turns in here. I'm not going to get too into it. I'm going to focus on literally the fact that I looked at this and I was just like, this sounds so stupid. This sounds like such a stupid title. It can't possibly be good. And I was proven wrong. This one, I think this is one that more people need to read. It was a lot more popular, I think, when the volumes were coming out. I don't really see it get mentioned that often. And I think the anime was a bit of a miss. And I know the anime had a lot of problems with it, but honestly, this is one where it starts off really fun, it gets quite serious, and it ends up being quite epic. Another title we're going to talk about is Playing Death Games to Put Food on the Table. I'm just going to quickly go over this because I've covered this so many times. So this is about a young girl who basically does death games as a job. And I've read my enough share of death games to kind of know that it's usually quite a serious subject, quite a tragic one, but this one, I'm enjoying it. I'm actually having quite a good time with it. It is a lot better than you would expect. I'm not going to get too into it because I've got plenty of videos on this one on the channel, and I will leave a link in the description, so go check that one out. Next up is another one which I kind of didn't think it was going to go anywhere. I kind of read the synopsis and I thought, you know what, this is just stupid. So that is Saskia and Peeps, and this is about a salaryman who buys a small bird as a companion and then discovers that the bird is actually a reincarnation of a magical sage from another world who basically gives him magic powers, and then he starts isekai into another world. Honestly, I didn't really expect much of it, but this is one of the ones where it kind of leans into the absurdity and just throws everything at you, because not only does he go to another world, he starts doing trade deals with this other world, and then ends up back in his world, and then the psychics arrive, they discover he's got psychic powers, and then the magical girl joins in, and then the death games start, and then the kaiju attacks, and then the aliens invade, all at an amusement park. It's one of those ones where it just takes just about every single trope and just throws them at you. It's one of those ones I think is a little bit more difficult to read. I don't know why, it takes me a while to get into each volume, but honestly I always have a good time with it. It's one of those ones where I kind of looked at it and I was just like, this can't possibly be good, it sounds too stupid, but it genuinely is one of those ones where I've had a really great time with it. Next up we have the BS situation of Tugetsu Umidori. Now this isn't necessarily one that sounds stupid from the title, but it's one that sounds stupid from the synopsis, and this main character here is actually called BS because, as in BS, you know, bullshit. And this is about lies, this is about eating lies and eating pencils, and yeah, then they start fighting lies and having weird over-the-top battles, and it ends up being very Monogatari style, flowery dialogue, over the top. It is absolutely ridiculous. This is just one I quickly wanted to mention, just because the synopsis sounds so stupid that I was kind of put off, but I was charmed. I mean, at the end of the day we have the Gargura kind of style character, but honestly this is a really fun one. Next up is another one that I've just had a lot of fun with, and that is BOFURI. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. Honestly, this just sounds like another pretty generic, overpowered protagonist, but honestly, this one is a really fun one. This is a cute girls doing cute, fun, overpowered things. For our main protagonist joins an online game. She doesn't want to get hurt, so she puts all of her points into defense and thus breaks the game. The developers didn't intend for someone to just mid-max and put all of the stats into one thing, because it wouldn't be balanced. She ends up being unstoppable and just about constantly gets new overpowered upgrades that just kind of break the world even more. I am a few volumes behind on this one. I think the last one I read was volume 13. I think volume 16's out now, so I do need to pick up and check it out. It's one of those ones where it's kind of like, there's not much to it. If you're looking for a deep philosophical story or anything like that, you're not going to find it here, but you're going to have a really good time with it, and that's my biggest takeaway from it. This is the big fun things I am finding with a lot of these titles. I am having so much fun with them because they're just really charming, and they're just really fun to read. Every volume, Maple gets some kind of ridiculous overpowered skill and just ends up being overpowered, but she's just having genuine fun with it, and it's a good little title for it. The next title we're going to talk about is a most recent read, and it has been sent to me by Yen Press for a review, and that is The World's Strongest Witch. And this is the one that I was reading and I was like, I need to make this video. So, The World's Strongest Witch is about a young girl who is pretty much kind of pushed out of her family. And the reason being is she's got an SSS rank ability. Now, the reason that she's pushed out is because everybody genuinely thinks SSS rank is a pretty low rank. They think obviously A rank is the best one, which kind of makes sense because there is that whole kind of where does S rank come from. So she's kind of like pushed aside, but her SSS rank is the internet. And she basically gets the ability to check guides, so you give FAQs guides, and she gets overpowered fast. She finds the top secret weapon that kind of makes her overpowered, and we genuinely just get a cute overpowered girl doing cute overpowered things by being overpowered. And again, this is one I'm about halfway through it, and I was expecting so little from it, but honestly I'm actually having a blast. I'm having a really good time. And it's funny because I read Omniscient Reader's Viewpoints like just before this, and I'm just kind of like, this is more or less the same kind of thing of character gets an incredibly overpowered ability early on and basically knows everything that's what's going to happen, but whereas that's treated as kind of like a serious meta narrative, this is just kind of like, yeah, that premise is stupid and we're just going to do stupid things with it. There's a really fun bit where like the guild master girl is just kind of like, she's like A rank, and then she comes across like this, and she kind of like, she's like trying to be friends with her, but like she's just genuinely being intimidating about it. Honestly, I am actually having a great time with it. I'm going to do a full review on it once I've finished it, but honestly, this one is a really fun one. Now, the last title we're going to talk about is again an ecchi one, but this one is again, I expected so little from this, and a lot of people are going to straight away side eye it because they're going to be like, they're going to take this and they're just going to be like, no, this is a terrible one. And I kind of agree, but these series give you exactly what it's said by the title and by the cover. So you're going in expecting an average series. So if a series is better than average, or it genuinely has good things, that's going to give me points. I'm going to give that more points than if a series goes in giving me the expectation that it's some amazingly written fantasy novel and ends up being trash. And the title we're going to talk about here is Do You Love Your Mom? And a 2-hit multi-target attacks. It's been a long time since I've talked about this one. This is kind of what boosted me into the light novel stratosphere of this series. But so this is about a young man who ends up kind of joining a game, and he's kind of a little bit estranged from his mother. And yeah, what ends up happening? He ends up in an online game that is focused towards mothers, and he ends up bringing his mother, who ends up being incredibly overpowered, to this game. And of course he ends up with a party of other girls who also have mothers who are kind of like overpowered and ridiculous and end up being villains and what have you. And you know what? This is a world designed for mothers, and there's a lot of thought again gone into this. Again, this is another one where I expected so little and got a lot more out of it than I expected. And just a little bit of a spoiler warning, the protagonist does not get with the mother. I'm assuming that was just a doujinshi that was done by Pochi. And it's a fun one. It's not going to be the best series ever, but you know what? It is a fun series, and if you want an ecchi comedy title, you can do a lot worse than this. At the end of the day, you know what you're expecting from this. From the cover, from the title, you're expecting an ecchi series. A series that basically puts the mom in different types of costumes just to sell more merchandise. And yeah, this one is genuinely a fun title.